Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of ReTVOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Billy Bob's Space Trucker, and is part of a series. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 15. Admiral Winters sipped at a cup of coffee as she stood on the bridge of the USS Enterprise, the largest, newest Freedom-class supercarrier built in the shipyards back home on Earth. The name amused her a little. American vessels had shared the name throughout history, and she knew that before humanity had expanded into the solar system, there had been a show about a spaceship with the same name. It was supposed to explore the galaxy in peace or some such bullshit. Her Enterprise did not have any such space hippie missions. It was a ship of war. 300 Gladiator-class fighter bombers and 1,500 support crew, 20 Armadillo-class assault ships to deliver 2,000 angry U.S. Space Marines upon target, 24 Sucker Punch-class main armament railguns, 68 Brass Knuckle-class close-range Vulcan cannons, 200 Liberation-class 15 megaton-yield nuclear missiles, 6,000 Peacekeeper-class conventional cruise missiles, 4 nuclear reactors, 3 movie theaters, 6 swimming pools, 1 full craft sports facility, including football and baseball fields, the largest skip drive ever made, and her personal favorite, 1 catapult, running the length of the ship. The Enterprise could fit an asteroid up to 100 feet wide into the special launch chamber and fling a rock at Xeno Colony at around 85,000 miles per hour, absolutely guaranteeing that they'd have a bad day. Flanking the Enterprise were her sister ships, the USS Constitution and the USS Second Amendment. They were earlier generation Federation-class supercarriers, lacking the catapult, and in general a little smaller but still heavy hitters. Then around the 3 supercarriers were 15 assassin-class hunter-killers that employed the finest in human-engineered stealth systems and skip drives. They bounced across the very fabric of reality and slammed a nuclear torpedo into a Xeno capital ship, and then bug out before anyone knew where they were. At the moment, the carrier group was sitting out in deep space. This was a tactic only humans ever employed. The sheer, vast nothingness that waited in deep space drove every other species insane pretty quickly. Humans just stared into the black and waited for the call to war. The skip drives they'd invented bent reality around the ship, another tactic that drove another species insane, and would let them charge into a system free of FTL gates, unleash hell, and skip out before any capital ship fleets could respond. The human government denied any knowledge or involvement in the American supercarrier program, but in reality each one was a testament to human ingenuity and drive. The hulls might be assembled in the US, but materials and parts came from across all of human space, not to mention all of the freshly minted citizens who crewed the ship, having come from every corner of Earth and beyond. Humans had invented plausible deniability, and so as long as the UHC claimed the Americans were a subspecies who they had no control over, the neighboring Xeno nations were forced to fight an enemy with no extrasolar colonies, and the most heavily defended homeworld in known space. An enemy who waited in deep space just to fuck up someone's day. Admiral Winters smiled as she kept sipping her coffee, thinking about how much she loved her job. Then her reprieve was interrupted by her comms officer. "Sir, we have gotten word. Intel reports a new Xeno species is ramping up for war with humanity as a whole. They're intercepted mobilizing orders and fleet movements." Winters frowned for a moment. "Humanity as a whole, not just us." "That is correct, sir. They're known as the Crustaceans. Apparently they serve the Galactic Secret Police." That caught her interest. "We're playing with the big boys, are we? What happened?" "We pissed them off, I guess, sir." Winters chuckled at that. "Military strength estimates? Biggest fleet that we've ever had to deal with. They're supposed to be excellent commandos as well." Winters just chuckled at that. "They've never met a pissed-off Marine with a jetpack. Very well. The battle horn has been sounded and America ramps up for war. Find their deepest, most secure system. I want to jump up close as possible, so when war is officially declared, we can come out swinging." "Yes, sir. Also direct orders from the president himself. He says this is all about some human who started defending some other Xenos diplomat." We're supposed to send the contingent of commanders to escort him on his mission. One American calls the Galactic War. Outstanding! What's this fine American go by? His name is Billy Bob, Space Trucker. Emily finally tore Billy Bob away from the slushies he'd been downing. Apparently, he missed the frozen sugar as much as he'd been missing real meat. They needed to go shopping for their new pet, which he had yet to name. The pair of them got odd looks from most of the Xenos around the station, even amongst the strange and varied populations of the galaxy. Humans and Libertonians looked out of place. Emily guided them through the black market station to a vendor who dealt with rare and exotic creatures, hoping to find what they'd need. From the outside, the store looked far more secure than most of the ones around it. There were bars in the windows, and it used tinted glass to keep the interior out of sight of most shoppers. But when they stepped inside, Billy Bob chuckled softly. Why do all pet stores smell the same? There were cages along the wall, some aquariums, and those types of enclosures you used for lizards, but Billy Bob couldn't remember what they were called. Terrariums, maybe? Most of the creatures seemed to be quiet, aside from the squawking calling of a few here and there. Looking around, he saw a few creatures wearing exosuits that looked similar to the galactic police he'd run from a number of occasions, but he wasn't sure if they were the same species or not. Emily walked towards the center to talk with the owner while Billy Bob wandered around. He found a glass enclosure with a pink-furred monkey-looking thing with an extra arm coming out of its back. The space monkey looked over at him and stuck its tongue out, so Billy Bob returned the gesture. That seemed to get its attention. Then it made a face and Billy Bob imitated it. That seemed to piss it off. Emily approached the bankier who ran the shop and started to talk with him, unaware of what Billy Bob was doing. Hello there. We recently came into the acquisition of a Venerex Plains Runner, and we're wondering if you might have some supplies that you could sell us for it. A Venerex Plain Runner? That's a carnivore, you know. I'm aware. Me and my companion are omnivores, so it's not an issue. Well, if you're okay with giving it meat on a regular basis, it's fine. What were you looking to buy? Emily looked over her shoulder to ask Billy Bob and saw him making faces at a glass cage. Billy Bob! He looked over as something brown slapped against the glass, and he jerked back for a moment. Ha! Totally a space monkey. He left the raging monkey in a box and walked up. What's up? What did you want to buy for our space cat dog? He frowned as he thought about how much he needed a better name for it. You know, like a bed and toys and stuff. Toys for a space cat dog? The space goblin asked. It's from a high-gravity planet, you know. It's very strong. I wouldn't advise trying to play with it. Don't worry about it. My fine space goblin, I'm from a super heavy-gravity planet. The space goblin blinked. What did you just call me? My translator must be glitching out. Don't worry about it. So you get what we want. Oh, and like shampoo and stuff. I'm sure we gotta give it a bath now and then. You plan on washing a space cat dog by hand? Yeah, sure, why not? Billy Bob smiled as the shop owner opened and closed his mouth a few times before shrugging. Clearly, he was confused. But they were offering to buy from him, so he couldn't complain too much. He started to bring out items for them to look at when Billy Bob interrupted him. I should have thought of this back on the planet, but do you have any sticks for sale? Any what? Sticks, branches, something for me to throw so that he can pick it up and bring it back. Both Emily and the shop owner stared at him. What? Doesn't anyone do that? Play fetch with animals? No. You're the only species I know of that can accurately throw things, Emily said as she shrugged. Whatever. I'll see what we've got. They spent a good half an hour selecting a variety of toys Billy Bob insisted on. A large soft bed for when it got bigger, and despite all of Emily's insistence that it was a bad idea, Billy Bob bought a large bone like a chew toy he insisted that he could throw as a stick. When it came time to pay, Billy Bob stared at the bill and then looked up at Emily, his best impression of big puppy eyes. Why are you staring at me like that? Come on, I can't pay for all of this. You should have thought about that before this... She stopped and looked at the shop owner before picking up a new pet on that planet. Oh, come on, you know I can't sell it. It's too awesome, please. I'll pay you back. When? Oh, you mean after I pay you? Yeah, just garnish my wages. My translator. Never mind, I think I get what you mean. Keeping one of those as a pet is going to be expensive, you know.
Oh, come on, please. Please.
Emily sighed and set her galactic trade cube on the counter.
Yes, thank you so much, Emily. You're the best.
He leaned in to hug her, and she quickly gasped out as he picked her up and bear hug.
Billy Bob, strength,
was all she could wheeze out before he quickly stopped and set her back down.
Shit. Sorry. You okay?
The diplomat groaned a little as she shook her arms, and then her wings fluttered for a moment. Yeah, but you nearly crushed me.
Sorry, cultural thing. I'll be more careful in the future. Just a high five.
He lifted his hand, and she snapped her palm against it, like he'd shown her.
Heck yeah, we'll make an American out of you yet. Have this stuff delivered to my ship,
he said to the space goblin, who'd watched the entire exchange in silent confusion. It'll take a bit of time to assemble it all for you. Give me some time.
Billy Bob waved a hand. Sure.
They walked out the station and backed into the flow of traffic. Xenos all around, buying and selling, chatting, arguing, yelling advertisements. Billy Bob and Emily glanced around, and he looked up at her.
Where to from here, boss?
She glanced down at her short companion, and then back up and around. Shall we find a place to sit and eat for a while?
Sounds like a plan.
She guided them through the crowds of people to a restaurant that served meat, and after Billy Bob made a bit of a scene by picking up the ergonomic chair and snapping it in half so that he could restack it into a comfortable human chair, they sat down. Billy Bob saw one of the familiar-looking space frogs walk up to take their order and ask for whatever they had with caffeine in it, then looked at Emily.
How come I keep seeing the space frogs in restaurants?
The space frogs? Oh, they have strict cultural codes regarding hospitality. They won't poison you for one, and in general tend to run places like this.
Well, that's good to know, but the last few seemed disgusted when we ordered meat.
Ah, the ones on stations like this are from their low class. They have to scavenge more and at times have to eat whatever they can. I don't think that they can handle meat, but they better understand the needs some species have than their upper class.
We're scavengers too. I mean, not anymore with Costco and shit, but we used to be. Had to work our way up the food chain, so we just ate all kinds of crap. How about you?
She shook her head. No, we were always at the top. We did have a common ancestor that was a pure carnivore, but they weren't as successful because it's harder to get nothing but meat. We could survive eating berries and plants. We always had our top picks, though. Most scavengers don't develop the intelligence your species has shown, though. He chuckled at that.
Well, some of my species thinks it's a cosmic joke that we did survive this long. We have a horrific tendency to risk death out of curiosity, even on a large scale. Before we detonated our first atomic bomb, some scientists thought that it would set our atmosphere on fire and kill off the whole planet, or something like that. We did it anyway. Then there was that big collider thing. What was it called? The Large Hairy Collider? I forgot. What did it do? Oh, it was a particle accelerator. We'd slam atoms, or I guess particles, against each other with huge speeds to learn more about them. A few decades after we made it to our moon, we made this really big one that created little black holes. Some people thought that they'd grow out of control and devour our planet.
Emily was silent in shock. But with her mask on, he couldn't see her mouth hanging open. You did what?
They were really small and, hey, honestly, they didn't do that. We still exist.
Your species makes little black holes?
Yeah?
Billy Bob glanced around, now a little nervous about the conversation.
That isn't normal.
No, it is forbidden by galactic government. It's insanely dangerous.
Oh, well, messing around with that stuff is how we came up with the skip tribes. I guess that's why no one else has them.
You mentioned those before. What are they?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but the basics is that they sort of feck up reality, and you bounce your ship across something else, another dimension or whatever, and end up somewhere else.
She blinked at that. You alter reality.
What's it like? For the most part, it's black, but you see strange colors on the very edge of your vision, and you'd swear someone is whispering to you.
You subject yourself to that?
Yeah. You learn to tune it out after a jump or two. The biggest threat is boredom.
Let me get this straight. You've developed a device that alters the very fabric of reality somehow and makes you bounce across what you think is another dimension and see colors and hear something whispered to you. And you just tune it out. Which means you're mostly bored?
Yeah.
She shook her head slowly at that. Humans are insane, or so perfectly sane they appear insane. He shrugged at that. Then he gasped and pointed over her shoulder out the window.
That's a disco ball.
She turned to look over her shoulder, seeing the shop across the way that had a spinning, sparkling orb inside. Oh, that's a cultural dance center. They have artifacts from pre-space flight civilizations and their various dances. They hold competitions and stuff to see if people can imitate the barbaric dancing for prizes.
Billy Bob was out of his seat, rushing out of the restaurant.
Billy Bob, get back here. We need to order. Billy Bob.
Emily cursed under her breath and quickly waved to the waiter to explain before rushing after her companion. When she crossed the street, he was walking back with a big smile. Got myself signed up for the tournament tonight. Guess he's got 2 thumbs and is an authority on barbaric pre-space fight dance. He pointed at his face with his thumbs. This guy! And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob Space Trucker.
I'd quickly like to thank our T5 Patreon and channel members, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.